Welcome to Positive Atheism English Channel. Today I am going to continue the second part of An Indian Test of Indian Astrology, which was printed in The Skeptical Inquirer. The lobby for Indian astrology had its crowning glory when, in February 2001, the University Grants Commission, that is UGC, decided to provide funds for BSc and MSc courses in astrology at Indian universities. Its circular stated there is urgent need to rejuvenate the science of Vedic astrology in India and to provide opportunities to get this important science exported to the world. Actually, the phrase Vedic astrology is an oxymoron since the prefix Vedic has nothing to do with the Vedas, the ancient and sacred literature of the Hindus, which do not mention astrology. In fact, scholars agree that the usual planetary astrology came to India with the Greeks who had visited India since Alexander's campaign in the 3rd century BC. Within 9 months of the UGC's announcement, 45 of India's 200 universities had applied for the UGC grants of 1.5 million rupees to establish departments of astrology. Of these, 20 were accepted. To those Indians who believe that astrological considerations influence the course of their business and family lives, and this category involves leaders of major political parties, the UGC's decision might seem sensible if overdue. But the decision provoked outrage among India's academics, especially those in the science faculties. More than 100 scientists and 300 social scientists wrote in protest to the government. Of the 30 letters to the editor that appeared in the Indian science journal Current Science, most of them from scientists in universities, departments or research institutes, about half dismissed astrology as a pseudoscience and a quarter felt that decisive tests were needed. Against this, the rest felt there was nothing wrong with funding something that most Indian people believe in. But the protests were without effect because in Indian law, Vedic astrology is seen as a scientific discipline. Nevertheless, in 2004, several scientists asked the Andhra Pradesh High Court to stop the UGC from funding courses in Vedic astrology because it was a pseudoscience. It would impose Hindu beliefs on the education system and it would reduce the funds available for genuine scientific research. However, the court dismissed their case on the grounds that it was not correct for a court to interfere with a UGC decision that did not violate Indian law. In 2011, an appeal under the act that bans false advertising was made to the Mumbai High Court. It was dismissed by the court, arguing that the act does not cover astrology and related sciences. Astrology is a trusted science and is being practiced for over 4,000 years. To justify calling it a science, astrology must fulfill the basic requirement of a scientific theory. It must make testable and correct predictions. Here, the performance of astrology in predicting the results of events has been very poor. The nearest we have are follow-ups to predictions of public events such as elections, where failure is the norm. For example, the elections in 1971 were a showdown between Indira Gandhi and her political opponents. The astrological magazine was filled with predictions by amateurs and professionals, most of whom predicted that Gandhi would lose. In fact, she won with an overwhelming majority. The 1980 elections attracted another frenzy of predictions, most of which saw Gandhi losing. For example, B.V. Raman, in a rare departure from his usual vagueness, predicted that Gandhi's efforts to regain office may misfire. Her ability to influence the government will be disconcertingly limited in effectiveness, and the outcome may not see a stable government. An Indian honorary astrologer predicted that Gandhi can never become the Prime Minister. However, she won with a huge majority, was Prime Minister and formed a very stable government. Also in 1980, at a large international conference organized by the Indian Astrologers Federation, both the President and Secretary of the Federation predicted a war with Pakistan in 1982. which India would win, and a world war between 1982 and 1984. All wrong. These examples and many more are given by Ravi, who notes that no astrologer predicted Gandhi's assassination in 1984, and that the golden rule seems to be predict only those things which please the listener's ego. In the West, books critical of astrology are not hard to find, but in India, the reverse is true. Some excellent books exist, such as Premanand et al. And Rao, but all are hampered by a lack of Indian tests with which to counter true believers. Even current science had to wait until Manoj Komar's review, which drew heavily on Western sources such as the critical but user-friendly. Unfortunately, given the low level of income and high level of illiteracy of the masses, web sources may not be very effective in general. UGC's funding of astrology might have been justifiable had Indian astrology ever been a source of new knowledge, or if its modus operandi had been verified by controlled tests. But unlike astrology in the West, where several hundred controlled tests have found no support commensurate with its claims, astrology in India had hitherto been without controlled tests, even though its focus on predicting yes or no events would make testing easy. I will now describe a controlled test that my colleagues and I conducted recently, and that test we shall know it in the next episode again. Thank you.
For more videos, please subscribe to our Positive Atheism English Channel presented by Samaram channels, which has crossed more than 20 crore views. Please like, subscribe and share our videos, and for notification of our new videos, please click the bell icon.